back to Internal Affairs State Police podcast here with the IA guy. The street dude is back. Hey, Pat, man, thanks for coming back, bro. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, storms and hurricanes all went through. We're good to go over there, safe and sound?
Yep, absolutely. Thankfully, little to no damage.
That's good, man. We'll check this out. All right, man, well, let's get to it, Luke. So check this out. Have you ever thought which is the fastest way to draw your firearm? So picture yourself at a traffic stop, and you know that the violator, the person you're about to approach, is wanted for this violent criminal act, crime, maybe he's a parolee at large, et cetera, et cetera. And as you approach, right, how do you do it? Do you actually have your gun on the side of your leg, or do you break leather like you're supposed to per policy and procedure? And so the street dude, Pat, actually has a demonstration of how quick do you draw from each one of those situations, whether it's from the gun on the side of your leg or from the actual holster, AKA breaking leather. So let's take a look at this video, and then we'll come back and discuss.
0.94. Point 91. Point 97. Point 92. Point 84. Point 79. Point 88.
Okay, you know, I forgot to say code 6. Of course, we're code 6. Hey, Pat, let me ask you this, man. First and foremost, what kind of prompted you to kind of highlight this particular type of situation about which is the fastest way to draw? And you can kind of walk us through your demonstration video, and, you know, we'll kind of go from there and see what the importance is of either or. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a message in my DMs on Instagram where one of the followers was like, "Hey, man, you ever see End of Watch? You know, when he approaches the car with the gun behind his leg, is that actually faster than drawing from the holster?" And it was funny because I remember when I was a new cop, I kind of had the same question because I had seen it.
Right.
You know, I'd seen other cops do it, and I was kind of curious. And I think I even asked, you know, maybe my FTO at the time, I said, "Hey, which way is faster?" And they had told me that drawing from the holster was always faster. So instead of just taking someone else's word for it, I decided like, hey, yeah, let me just run it and let's see what happens.
Okay, so you ran it. So talk to me. Let's talk about the results first. I want to say you did it with breaking leather, right, from the holster?
Yeah, we went from the holster, and then we went from kind of behind the leg, tucked behind the back there.
Okay, talk to me. So what were the results on the average? And we already watched the video. I know it depicts you did it a couple of times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times.
So that video is actually just a shortened clip. I did it about 25 times each, just to see. And the results were a little surprising. I actually thought maybe from the holster would be a little faster due to distance traveled. But it turned out that you know, running from behind the leg actually ended up being about 1/10 of a second faster. I think the best time that I was able to get was a 0.79 from behind my leg, and then a 0.89 from the holster at 3 meters.
Okay, and so this demonstration will lead us into what? I mean, what are we telling officers, I suppose, what to do and what not to do? What do you think the optics are?
Right. So, you know, I posted the video to Instagram a little bit ago, and, you know, some people were like, "Oh, yeah, you know, it's still bad tactics to do X, Y, and Z." And that's understandable, you know, but the point of the video was to say, well, the question was, which way is faster? So that's what we did. But actually, from a tactics perspective, I would never actually recommend that you know, approach a vehicle with your gun behind your back. There's actually a better way to do it, you know, depending on the situation.
Right. And so if there is a better way of doing it, what do you think one of those options are?
Well, it comes down to circumstance, right? So, let's just say in the scenario of a traffic stop. Well, why are you stopping the car? For what reason? Is it a traffic stop, or does the vehicle match the description from a crime in progress that just happened and you're stopping it? Did you run the tag and get some kind of alerts, NCIC hits? Maybe, like we said earlier, maybe he's wanted for something, a violent crime. Um, and in that aspect, I would say if you have information ahead of time, well, then you should follow your department's policy. And I would always recommend, if it was a violent crime, I would always recommend stopping a car, using a felony stop and not approaching that car. Call them out to you from your vehicle once you have the manpower to do it safely.
Totally. And let me kind of expand a little bit on what you just said in regards to policy and procedure. I am the IA guy, so let's talk about whether you do violate policy and procedure. Look, the first thing I would tell you is that if you're going to violate policy and procedure to save your life, and again, you said there was a 1/10 of a second. Well, we can all agree, whoever's watching and listening, that a 10th of a second to save your life and go home to your family, that might be something you might want to consider. Maybe not at the time, you're not thinking about it, right? When you engage, would you agree with me the average OIS is less than 2 seconds? I mean, everything is going so fast. Right.
Yes, sir.
So if it's a 10th of a second that's going to save your life and for you to go home to your family, then you know what? I'm not suggesting that you walk up with your gun in the back of your leg, but that's kind of like an old school move. I know that movie kind of depicted something that happens back in the days. Yeah, I can tell you that a couple of my training officers, when I was on probation, there was traffic stops where we just broke leather, held it on the side of the leg, because what you want to do is react as quick as possible because, again, certain situations might lead into lethal force. What do you think?
Absolutely. And, again, looking at the totality of everything, when I taught at the academy, I would always tell the recruits, hey, anytime you're going into any scenario, you want to plan for 3 fights: fist fight, gunfight, no fight. When your gun's already in your hand, you actually now are planning for the gunfight. And if it becomes a fist fight, we have now complicated the measure. And if there's no fight, we've potentially complicated the measure also. Can we reholster? Sure.
Yes.
But that would lead further down the line into maybe possibly getting a complaint, or, that could be a separate issue.
Just out of curiosity, in terms of drawing and exhibiting, would you agree that certain agencies, I shouldn't say all agencies or a lot of agencies, I should just say agencies in general, do they have a policy for drawing and exhibiting that you're aware of?
I'm as so far as I know, most do. I know my old agency did. Anytime a weapon was drawn and pointed at somebody that required a use of force to be completed, that was a reportable use of force.
Right. And I know my beloved LAPD did revise the drawing and exhibiting to the buzzword necessary, which is super, super important, right? So if it's necessary for you to draw and exhibit your firearm because you have a reasonable belief that this situation's, going to escalate to pretty much deadly force, that necessity for you to draw it, then go for it. And you know what? I'm sure you'll agree with me. All cops are very good at shooting. We're very good at tactics. We're very good at, conducting traffic stops and doing police work. But some of us kind of have a hard time kind of explaining and articulating what it is that we're actually doing, especially when it comes to tactics. What do you think?
Yeah, I think maybe sometimes there's an over reliance on because I said so or because I felt like it.
Yeah.
And in today's modern day of policing, it doesn't really fly anymore. You do need to learn how to articulate why you did what you did and when you did it. Unfortunately, all cops have that spidey sense, and if you felt the need that you needed to draw your weapon and keep it at the low ready, you just had a weird feeling. Well, that's great, but you do need to be able to articulate, what caused you to believe that.
Yeah, no, totally, man. Hey, man, thanks for the demonstration. I think it's super, super important. You and I kind of talked about it. And again, having people inquire about, hey, you know what? Maybe it is faster to actually draw with the gun on the side of your leg. Could be a situation that you might need to. Again, that all depends on your circumstances and how you feel, like you said, the spidey sense. You know what? Do what you got to do in order for you to be safe, not get killed in the line of duty, and certainly go home to your family. So, any parting words, bro?
No, man, be safe out there. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, well, you know what? Hold on a second. I know you sent me some notes. You know, we're got to get professional here. I know, let's see. Not smart to approach a car with a gun out, right? On a felony stop. We did kind of talk
Oh, well,
about that.
yeah, there is that portion, one thing, like we talked about earlier, if you felt the need or you had information prior, you're always going to want to go on a felony stop. You should absolutely never approach a car with a gun out, regardless. It doesn't matter. You should be doing things on your terms with, other officers to conduct that traffic stop safely.
Yeah, and then the other issue that we wanted to kind of flush out is that, look, if you're at the window, your weapon should be at the ready, right? And
yeah, so that was always the thing, right? So we talked about from the holster, and we talked about kind of from behind the hip and the leg there. But the best tactic or the best position to be from, if you felt you were at the window and you did need to draw your firearm, is the most advantageous position is always to have that firearm at the ready.
yes,
In front of you.
yes. Would you agree, now that we're getting into the conversation about firearms, would you agree that if you approach a vehicle on a traffic stop, obviously, and you actually see a firearm in plain view, do you still teach to actually back up and get cover and concealment and call it out and let people know that now we have an armed suspect?
I think it would be a little situational dependent. I've come up on vehicles where I have seen guns, in the car, and it was really depending on what the driver was doing,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe have to take a little more into consideration. I've stopped a car full of gangbangers that all had guns, but I was already at the window and I felt it necessary that I don't retreat and I'm going to hold my ground, just because the way the situation developed was I actually had the advantage at that point.
Right.
And then I've seen people reaching around from 10, 15 feet away, and I opted to move back to my car.
Yeah.
Again, it would be situationally dependent.
Yeah. No, obviously. Absolutely, man. Well, it's good stuff, bro. Hey, man, let's get together again and break something else down, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love being here.
All right, bro. Wait, you know what? Be safe out there. I hope there is no more hurricanes. And if you ever decide to come to the great state of California, where there is no tornadoes and no hurricanes, perhaps there'll be an earthquake here and there. I've been told. I've experienced. Come on down. Well, thank you, man. Look,
Absolutely.
like always, please be safe out there. And on that note, like always, don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.